Hey, welcome to Versus Pamphlet. My name is Rob, and I'm the host of this one-man show coming to you every Monday, 6 a.m. UK time. And today, as you can tell from the title, we have a bit of a pop culture roundup. I think mostly it's because, I had two bigger stories that couldn't really fit into one single episode in that sense, because they're not as long as I would want them to be. So I decided to just put them together and, run with it, I guess. So that's what the episode is going to be about. So I firstly want to talk about the Cardi B sophomore album that came out this past Friday, but then I also want to get into the Taylor Swift theatrical event that she announced recently as well. Plus, just a very quick roundup of any possible other, pop culture events that happened in the past week or so. Yeah. But again, as usual, this is available on all platforms. You can find it on any place you stream your podcasts at. It's even on YouTube if you want in audio format. And yeah, you can just check it out whatever you want, and please share with other people if you think they would like something like this. So, period. Now, let's get into the Cardi B of it all. Cardi B is pretty famous by herself, I guess. She became one of the most streamed rappers ever, probably. Despite only having one album out until very recently. Now, her sophomore album is called Am I the Drama, and it came out exactly this past Friday. So, and it came out after 7 years from her debut album. 7 years after Invasion of Privacy. That's the album that gave us several hits like I Like It, or Bodak Yellow, or actually, I can't really remember what other songs were on the Cardi B album. Actually, the Invasion of Privacy. I Like It definitely was there. Free Your Phone, all those are hits. But Cardi managed to stay relevant for quite a bit. That album specifically catapulted her to greater heights in that sense. She became a Grammy winner after the album. She became super famous. She managed to bag several other collaborations, South of the Border, or Finesse, or Please Me, or I'm trying to think of the one with the Maroon 5 situation, but was that it? No, that's not a different one, yeah. Or Taki Taki, all these other songs. But anyways, after that album, she became super super famous. She went toe to toe with Nicki Minaj multiple times. She became a very prominent figure in the rap rap scene in that sense. So I am very much aware of the fact that she also opened the doors for the prolific era of hip hop female artists, Megan, Doja, that came all after her, Lotto, Ice Spice, all these people Glorilla. Definitely the biggest contribution I think she brought to the rap scene, specifically the female rap scene, was that there could be more than one single big rapper in the industry apart from Nicki Minaj. But also I feel she standardized also sort of a new image of a female rapper, which is not necessarily attributed to real hip hop roots in that sense. She's more whenever I think of Cardi B, she's more the pop version of a hip hop, of a rapper, basically, right? Hip hop artist in that sense. So she's more manufactured, not necessarily in a negative way, but more there's more people involved in the writing department, which is arguably the most important part in a hip hop song. And the sound itself is more catered towards streaming and radio play and all that stuff. So she definitely brought also that, I think, into the rap game. I mean, Nicki Minaj is to be fair, like the one who popularized pop rap in that sense, like to be making pop hits for the radio, and she definitely is part of it. But I think Nicki is more still at her roots a real hip hop artist. Like she's not scared of. She's like her pen is lethal, and she writes her own bars, and she's very intentional with the writing and the artistry of it all. So that's a different category, I think, of rapper altogether. I think Cardi just definitely pioneered the more like pop like persona, like almost in like influencer manufacturer type of personality in the hip hop scene. So that's where it's at, and I mean, she definitely bagged big time because her first album was so successful. She became instantly super famous and relevant. But that was then. That was 7 years ago, and I think she kept it up for quite a long time, including then having put out WAP and Up, which were both, I think, I would say, her last true hits. But those also came out quite a while ago. I think 5 years ago or something like that. So they were definitely like big hits before and like during the COVID era. But that's pretty much it, I would say. So yeah, after 7 years, you could, I was planning to like say basically that clearing the previous album would have been a tall order for her, but on second thought, I think that the expectations for this album have been thrown out of the window simply due to the amount of time that has passed from her previous record. If this album had been released even maybe a couple of years ago, or ideally after Up, it would have been much more anticipated. But I think the hype for her as an artist overall is has died down significantly, and it does not really help the fact that this album doesn't really have anything memorable on it in that sense. It plays more like a collection of songs, some of which sound quite dated, and most of which sound extremely generic or algorithmic, or a different iteration of Up, basically, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. I'm no hip hop expert in that sense, but I'm more like interested in the analyzing her as a pop persona, and dare I say, there's nothing quite memorable in this album. Like, it's also important to note that again, Up and WAP have both been included in the album, despite coming out, as I said, like 5 years ago or something, and this is undoubtedly done to boost the chart positioning of the album itself. But again, since these two songs have been released so long ago, they do not feel fresh, in my opinion, or like part of the album whatsoever, further reinforcing, I think, the lack of any proper standout moment on the album itself. Like the features on the album as well, there's quite a few, like it's quite a plethora of sort of big names included on the album, but I don't think they really create much traction because of the quality of the feature, or what they actually bring to the table, and also the fact that they're like not exactly the biggest features in that sense. So Summer Walker is featured on 2 songs, and in both songs she seems to be in her SZA impersonator bag, if I have to be honest. She's not really standing out as much. She's more like it sounds more like a song that was supposed to have SZA on it, but then she couldn't afford to say that, so she got Summer Walker. Not saying this Summer Walker is like knockoff version of SZA, but sometimes some of her songs, I think she does try to like emulate SZA a lot, because he sells. That's just the way it is. I'm afraid to say that also the Selena Gomez song also, sounds very generic and very dated, and I think also Selena, because of her the most recent album, hasn't really been that relevant in the music department, so it doesn't really help that much in that way. The Janet Jackson feature is not actually a proper feature either. Like, it's just a sample of one of Janet Jackson's songs, so there's not really much there to write home about. Then the Lizzo track is lackluster at best, and on top of that, Lizzo is also not exactly relevant anymore. So there's nothing really, I mean, the features definitely like make you want to like check out the song, but once you check it out, you're like, oh, this is so forgettable and so lackluster and algorithmic and generic. So nothing really stands out, especially between the features, in my opinion. But I have to admit, I did find one song quite catchy and interesting, and that is Bottega Baddie. That's more in her Latin bag, I would say, and offers quite the production change that the album desperately needs, because everything else sounds like pretty much the same iteration of the same song. But I think overall I won't really be returning to any of the songs, truthfully. Like Bottega Baddie, I would maybe play it like maybe every now and then, like not really something that I would look out for, but if I had to look out for a new song by Cardi B, I would go for this maybe. Or if I was at a party, I would probably play that if I had to play something interesting. But yeah, so that's what I think about the songs. I feel like the biggest takeaway from this album overall is that the artistry of any artist, musical artist, is really something you cannot buy. Like when it comes to hip hop, where writing bars and being authentic is what really counts. Cardi B does not strike me as someone who is particularly interested in the artistry side of music or hip hop, at that, which I think it also partially explains a big delay in putting out maybe the album. I'm not sure exactly what happened in the background, if it couldn't come together because of label issues or anything else, but I think part of it has to be the fact that Cardi B never had a clear vision of what she wanted this second album to be, or in general her legacy to be. There's no vision or drive behind her songs, if I have to be honest. Like, that's what I'm taking away from this. And don't get me wrong, like, she has a great personality and she can definitely deliver bars, like in delivery wise, like she has the cadence and everything, but I think she would be more suited as an influencer or a strong like social media personality, because she already is that personally. I think what really, like, it was, her album became more relevant in this second album. Like the promotional cycle of her being in the streets begging for people to buy copies like became sort of a meme. So, and I think sort of eclipse the album itself, and sort of really proves my point that she's more like a personality and a more like an influencer or funny person or online, you know. I think I actually really see her as a night show host or something. Like, she's really funny like that, I think, and she would really thrive in that area. But I don't really think her passion is in music, I have to be honest. Or if it is, it doesn't really come off well from this album, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Like, you know, I think at least it's been put out. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future. Like, if anything here manages to like get into the algorithm and into the TikTok of it all, maybe, you know, she will put out a new album eventually, a third album, but maybe this is it for her. Like, you know, it's been so long, and this is what we've been offered, which is like a collection of songs that seem to be, you know, actually a bunch of songs that she wrote in these 7 years. So some of them, that's also probably why some of them may sound quite dated, maybe. I'm just speculating here, but it does feel like a collection of songs that don't really have much, you know, cohesiveness or vision in what, you know, it should be about. But yeah, also wanted to point out that in some of the songs she really seems to be like stealing from the Glorilla bag in terms of delivery and like flow. But that's just me. That's just maybe me, like, you know, looking too much into it. But anyways, that's my short review of Am I the Drama by Cardi B. Now, let's get into the other big girl, I guess, big news of the day, and that is the Life of a Showgirl theatrical event that was, you know, announced fairly recently. I think it was like 13 days before the release of the album, so it must have been Saturday or Friday, something like that. Anyways, Taylor Swift is making this week's roundup as well, because she's shaking things up as usual, and her album is less than 2 weeks away now, and I'm so excited. And it's been recently announced that, after a lot of speculation as well and rumors, that there will be a theatrical event that accompanies the album release. And that's right, she's bringing the album to the big screen, which is quite new, I would say. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone doing that, or I can remember anyone doing that. But from what we know, she's basically premiering the lead single's music video on the big screen, which is The Fate of Ophelia, together with lyric videos for all the other songs, and most importantly, I think, behind the scenes for the creative process behind the Life of a Showgirl album. So I think it's such a refreshing move, and I really think is a good idea, because we have not really received an insight on the creation of an album ever since Folklore, with the Long Pond Studio sessions on Disney Plus, and it seemed like the marketing and promotional cycle for the album itself is finally getting to full motion with this. There were also so many complaints from the fans saying that she has not been really doing much for this album to promote it, and they were, you know, recounting, eras like 1999 or Lover, which was basically everywhere promoting albums. But I personally do not really understand why these criticisms are being thrown around. I saw a very interesting TikTok that I really agree with, and that Taylor is like entering her Beyonce era, and she's been moving towards that for quite a few years now, I think. But first of all, she's at a completely different height in her career compared to back then, to like the 1989 or like the Lover era. Um, she does not necessarily need to do much to promote an album anymore. Like talking about it on her fiance's podcast was more than enough, I think, to generate a storm on social media that already proved to be quite successful, I think. I think it's also pretty clear that she has been trying to move to in-house means of like promotion, and just in general, like everything in-house. I think it's she wants to be very self-reliant in that sense. She doesn't want to be relying on any third-party promoter, and it's she already did it with the Eras Tour movie as well, the documentary. So yeah, uh, talking about it, I think the TTPD was, for example, like solely promoted through the Eras Tour itself. For example, like she didn't really do interviews, she didn't really go anywhere to talk about it. Roughly same thing with Midnights, to be fair. Like she didn't really do as many interviews, and she sort of really relied on her own big massive following. But because I mean that's a luxury that she now has, because she's become, again, so successful that she doesn't really need to go through the mainstream means. She has her own in-house self-reliant means to promote something. And maybe some people wish she was like going through another imperial phase where she's like practically everywhere. But she doesn't really need to do that anymore. Like she doesn't need to be on billboards. She doesn't need to be like on buses or on like in the street signing albums like Cardi B. Like it's not that. Like that's not her anymore. Like she hasn't been like that for quite a few years. And I think also it wouldn't really work as well, because she, again, being so successful and sort of deprives her of being super up close with the fans because of security issues, most of all, I think. But yeah, I think it only makes sense for her to bring everything in house, because she's now so big that she can afford to do that, to be fair. So that's that. She has struck again a deal with AMC to distribute the movie without having to rely on any distributor, and I feel like going for a theatrical event once again makes a lot of sense. She's very clearly I think laying out the groundwork to create a strong relationship with the movie theaters and the movie market and foster her reputation in the industry, because I mean she's talked about this several times, that she's preparing this, like she's directing a movie eventually, an eventual movie. I think she really wants to have its own legs, if that makes any sense. And what better way to get into the industry than by already laying the groundwork with your own albums that already generate so much work, so much engagement as well. Wouldn't be surprised if and when the movie comes out, if she's also directly making another deal with AMC with no third party distributor. I think that seems to be her strategy as of now, so that's quite interesting to look out for. But yeah, Taylor also has moved away, I think, from pre-releasing singles, which is another complaint that I've seen around. But this has been the case ever since Lover. It sort of helps her to prevent, I think, having to prevent her from having the general public, I guess, have a preconception about the album. They can just I think, for example, when Shake It Off came out, everyone was like lukewarm about it. Like there were contrasting opinions, and everyone thought that the album was going to be sort of like in that direction, and then it turned out to be something not completely different, but different sonic wise, in terms of sonics. But now, like, ever since Folklore and the surprise drop, or like Me, also, to be fair, Me was a big clunker. I think it really dragged down Lover initially, because she chose the wrong single, I think. And people really jumped the gun on Lover, thinking it was going to be trash, and it was still a very good album overall. So yeah, I mean, again, Folklore was sort of like trailblazing for this, in the sense that she dropped the album out of nowhere, and she realized that she can do that and generate a different sort of engagement. Like the album is gonna take the focus rather than the single songs, and she's always been an album artist more than like a single or like a song artist in that sense in terms of charts. To be fair, like the only time like she's charted multiple songs from an album in terms of singles was 1989, like multiple number ones I'm talking about. So she doesn't really seem to be interested in that per se. And I think it's totally fine because every time she puts out an album, she charts all the songs in the top 10 and more. So that's super super valid. Yeah. So I think we're not. But I think also another I think good point about like the strategy I guess that she's adopting of releasing the album and with no pre-release single is I think also it helps her to choose the next singles down the line after the release of the album so that she can simply choose what songs are people naturally like gravitating towards, much like what happened with like I don't know Bejeweled or Is It Over Now or I Can Do With a Broken Heart or something like that. But yeah, I think overall Taylor really understands the power of creating a big event, especially nowadays where like relevancy and staying power is very fleeting and attention spans are very very low. She needs to make a big splash in order to like pierce through many silos and echo chambers created by the algorithms. So I think she really understands the engagement needs to be up to 100 and she needs to create the sense of a big event. And this is what's been happening with movies in general. Like the only movies nowadays that really perform up to par are the movies that create a sort of event. Think about, I don't know, Barbenheimer or Wicked or any sort of big movie recently that's managed to like go through the mainstream was because there was something accompanying it, like there was a bigger experience to be had, or like I don't know, Minecraft for example as well, the chicken jockey or like all that stuff. Like whenever there is a bigger event at play, that's when people actually naturally like it takes that big of a stretch to capture the mainstream, if we can even talk about a mainstream anymore. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, to me, it makes so much sense, and I think it's a very smart move. And again, since there is no Eras tour happening at the moment that can self-promote the album, the next big thing, the next best big thing, I guess, is to put the new album on a big screen instead of a big stage. So that is quite smart, I would say. As usual, she is very savvy, very very savvy. So I'm very very proud of that, and I'm very excited to see. I mean, I won't be able to see it. Then that's what really is paining me at the moment. Like it's very annoying because I'm not gonna be around. I'm gonna be away that weekend specifically when the movie will be playing around in the theater. So that's quite the bummer for me. Jail to Taylor because of what the fuck. But I'm super excited to hear about the process behind the album, and hopefully I'll get to see. I'm sure like the thing will be released in digital or on streaming somewhere. But I love really seeing her in the studio, coming up with lyrics and melodies and giving us an insight into the process of it all, because she is truly a genius when it comes to that. Like it's just so cool to see the moment when like lightning is struck and like is caught in a bottle, and it's just magical, I think. Yeah. So look out for that. Good luck with finding the tickets as well, because it's going to be a carnage. But yeah, slay. In any other news, I think what else has happened in pop culture recently? Well, politically, for example, we can. I don't know if you guys have seen, but the UK and Canada, I think, as well, have all recognized Palestine finally as a country, and that means like they can have access to having an embassy in those countries, like in Canada and the UK, and many other benefits, and it's a big step, I think. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this as well. The Jimmy Kimmel situation, sort of adding up to what we were talking about in the previous episodes about the Charlie Kirk assassination. He made Jimmy Kimmel, if you don't know about it, he's the host of one of the late night shows in the US, and he just sort of like was recounting the news, and he was saying that he was sort of like going after MAGA people, trying to like pin it onto Democrats, saying that the shooter was part of the Democrats when it's clearly a lie, and it was someone who was actually part of the Republican Party. So they didn't even say anything about Charlie Kirk or the assassination, and the very scary part, I think, is that his show was taken off air indefinitely, so it's not going to go back on air for God knows how long, because ABC was pressured to take it out, and because Trump and Republicans are not happy about it, and it's very scary because they're really trying to censor narratives and free speech, and it's just something very scary. I'm really really scared about what's going on in the US, if I have to be honest. Like, the Charlie Kirk situation was also sort of an indignation and like something really really weird that went against freedom of speech, of course. But like here also, where there was nothing super um you know out of the ordinary, or like something super controversial that was said by Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not I'm not really understanding why this like had to be triggered into such a huge situation. And it's clear that the Republicans really want to foster this anti-democratic sentiment, and I don't know if it's a smart move, because I can feel the tension rising by the day in terms of violence and resentment, and the shooting of Charlie Kirk is a plain example of how dire the situation is and how much people are like ready to actually take matters into their own hands. And I wouldn't be surprised if brewings of a civil war are not that far. I mean, not some all like pessimistic or I don't know, anticlimactic, but I think it is something to be looking out for. Like, this is just simply shocking, if I have to be honest. And so a lot of people went on social media, a lot of famous people were pressuring Disney to put the show back on air and not to like bend their their will against the Republican Party. I think it's just like a very difficult situation. I really recommend you read the Hollywood Reporter's article about this. It's like quite insightful, I think, on this topic. But yeah, scary times. So I don't know. I think it's just like something to really be concerned about, because shit is going down, and the U.S. is really, really, really in a very terrible state at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I hope that everyone is safe. But yeah. Anyways, this is sort of the end of the roundup. Now I'm gonna pass the word to my other self for this week's sponsor, and I'll catch you in a bit with the songs of the week. Bye. Speaking of pop culture, I think it's only very fitting that today's sponsor for my video is actually a legend in the pop culture department. This is a quick shout out to our friends at Old Glory, the ultimate destination for officially licensed merch. Seriously, they've got over 300,000 items covering everything from music and sports to movies, TV, and pop culture. If you're a music fan, you'll find merch from absolute legends like Bob Marley, The Beatles, The Grateful Dead, Metallica, Rolling Stones, you name it. And honestly, just about every genre you can imagine, actually. And for my sports fans, Old Glory has officially gear for the NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, and NCAA. Everything from jerseys and hats to hoodies that rep your team in style. This is a family-owned superstore that's been around since like 1969, so they know quality and they know customer service for sure. They've also got free center shipping, and they ship the same day you order, so doesn't even get much better than that. So whether you're shopping for yourself, hunting down the perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality fan gear. Find them at oldglory.com, and don't forget, I've hooked you up with an exclusive discount just for my listeners. Use my promo code OversharePamphlet at checkout for the best deal they offer anywhere, and that's oldglory.com. Check it out. Right, we're back with the songs of the week. You can find these songs, by the way, every single week, I guess, when I update my playlists for the month. You can just simply search on Spotify, and I think also now on Apple Music for a brief time. the official pamphlet songs of the week dash month and year that we're in. So this would be for the month of September 2025. So go check it out. Go check it out. I have all the songs from all the episodes in all different playlists. So you can just simply even also search for my name, I guess, on Spotify, and you can find all the all the playlists. So yeah. Anyway, so what are we yakking about with the songs of the week? We have quite a few. First off, I want to talk about "Unconditional" by Jade. She put out her debut album. Jade from Little Mix, but she put out her solo debut album, I guess. But this song, girl, this is like very interesting because it's like quite sort of like 90s or like 80s. I see a bit of 80s groove in it. Very quirky instrumental, I think, very very quirky, but also then it gets very aggressive with like a very heavy electric guitar breakdown in two parts of the song. Super super cool, very very catchy. The beat is just incredible, and her vocal performance is so haunting in the song. It's just, girl, please check it out. Please check it out. Jade is has always been my favorite member of Little Mix, and I'm so glad to see that she's the most successful, I guess, out of all the girls from Little Mix, but also the most, refreshing and daring as an artist. So good to see. But that song is just a highlight from the album, I think. So so good. Then we have Body by Dayoung from Ujusunyan. Yeah, the Korean group, K-pop group. But this is her first single as a solo artist, and this song is for my Tinashe fans. This is a Tinashe song. If you like Tinashe, you will love the song. And also, if you like choreos or anything of the sort, this song has such an interesting and very catchy choreo. It's very like hip hoppy and very 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 cool. Like, just cannot, like, the choreo is stuck in my head, and I think I really want to learn it. So it's so much fun. But also the song is just so so catchy as well. It's quite summery, which is weird that it came out now. But I guess for my for the peeps in the southern hemisphere, you're gonna have a great song of the summer. So slate up. And then I have "Beggin" by Chris Lake and Aluna. This song is pure house vibes, and it's just so infectious. I think it's very very cool. It's very very catchy. It has a great instrumental chorus in that sense. So good. Just, I came across the song randomly, and I'm very very much interested by this song, and I've been replaying it. It's just so good. If you want something to like dance to or like jam to, this is it. Very dancey. I think I have a bit of everything this week, which is very interesting. And then I have the last two songs that are instead quite like on the vibier side. It's "Hosuden" by Mark Whalen, I don't know, and then "Companions" by Matt Dimona. Both songs are quite interesting. I think the first one, "Hosuden," is very memorable because of this guitar riff that is like from the beginning of the song, but also in the chorus. So so catchy. And then "Companions" is just, I don't know, a very chill track. Like, it's almost on the verge of R&B, I think, maybe, but it's quite cozy. It's almost video game style a bit. So cool, so cool, so chill, and I really really love it. But again, you can find all these songs in the playlist of the month. It's available everywhere. Please do search it up if you want to keep up with these songs. Just love. I keep doing it because I just love discovering new music. It's just something that I really am proud of. But yeah, go listen to it. We are having a great month, actually. So many songs I've added to this playlist. But and yeah, next episode will be the last episode of September. So the playlist is gonna be huge. So go listen to it. And with that, the episode is now concluded, girls. Just go to work, Go back to work, do your job. Nobody wants to work these days. Stand up and work. Go back to work. Bye.